We really have created something here. Thanks to you and all for joining us and all your enthusiasm. We've really got something. As I said to Olga, there was a moment where I thought, wow, we're riding some amazing big monster. What are we going to do with this thing called the Global Biodiversity Festival? But it's now turned from riding a monster to something called sort of surfing a wave. There is genuinely a beautiful global wave of action on biodiversity, and it's great to be part of it. So thanks for joining us. And to help with that is my dear friend, Mark Evans. Hiya, Mark.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely great. I'm here in Geneva, Switzerland. Where are you?
I am sitting in sunny Muscat, where it is about, well, it's cooled down a bit today. It's 43 degrees Celsius today.
Wow. Well, everybody, Mark and I bumped into each other through the years at the Royal Geographical Society, and I knew Mark was working somewhere out there in Oman, but we hadn't connected except that we both share the same values. And then wonderful day at the Royal Geographical Society, Mark's book arrived with an invitation to go to Oman and join him. So Joel and I went, and we went out and we did an amazing journey in the Sharqiya Sands. Took us a few days off to go do some diving, of course, and then back to work with Mark on some of the follow-up lectures and talks in Muscat. And Mark, that was a defining trip for us. Thank you so much. And just so you know, everybody, Mark heads up Outward Bound Oman. And the principles of even though this man has now grown this amazing, sort of hub of activity and action there in Oman, it's still the same set of principles that drives Mark. And I just love that. And I hope you do too. Mark's got a presentation for us. We've got your videos lined up, Mark. So great. Over to you, sir.
Great. Thanks, Paul. And I'm just going to continue the theme that Prashant, the previous speaker, was talking about, the importance of young people, really. So I'm going to talk about using nature to empower young people, but also the fact that we shouldn't be afraid to look backwards sometimes when it comes to identifying solutions for current and future problems. 20 years ago, sadly, I'm showing my age now, but 20 years ago, I was lucky enough to spend an entire year living in a tent in the Arctic, about 500 miles from the North Pole. And we had 4 months of total darkness, 4 months of total daylight. This photograph that you're looking at here is the moon. You can see the stars. Those of you who are astronomers can see the 3 stars of Orion just over the mountains on the right-hand side there. An extraordinary experience in a place where human beings are not top of the food chain, which always makes your heart beat a little bit quicker. But I spent most of my time there sleeping on reindeer skin for insulation in a sleeping bag. But my pillow was a book that I'd been meaning to read for years, but never had the time to do it. A busy old life. I'd read about 3 pages, then fall asleep, and I'll be back where I started the next night. So it took a year in the Arctic for me to actually read from cover to cover this incredible book written by this amazing man called T.E. Lawrence of Arabia. And that's him on the left there. If you're a member of the Explorers Club in New York, you might recognize the man on the right, Lowell Thomas, the American movie maker who went out to Arabia to capture moving images of this extraordinary man called Lawrence. And what set Lawrence apart was that, like some of your speakers, Paul, Lawrence was gifted with the pen, and he had a great way of capturing the environment and describing the desert in a way that maybe Wilfrid Thesiger is the only other person who's come close to Lawrence in his writings. And Lawrence described this scene here as the oldest university on Earth. And you use the word simple principles, Paul. And the principle here is incredibly simple. And it is that for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, human beings have gathered around the fireplace to exchange news, to resolve issues, to settle disputes, and come up with solutions to problems. And this is highly transportable. You can sit around a fire in the mountains, you can sit around a fire in the jungle, you can sit around a fire in the desert. And So most of my life has been spent flick-flacking between these two environments, Arctic and Arabia. And yes, they're incredibly different, but you look at those two photographs and there are huge similarities, not just in the landscape and in the specificities of the adaptation of the flora and the fauna, but in the people. The people who live in both of these places live on the edge of human tolerance and the edge of human existence. And they're much the finer for it. The hospitality you experience from the Inuit when you go to Greenland and Alaska is very, very similar to the hospitality that you receive off the Bedouin in Arabia. So my early years were in the white stuff. My last 20 years have been in the sand on the right. And throughout all that time, I would argue that this debate is becoming absolutely clearer and clearer and louder. The value of wild places is increasing exponentially year by year. As we've moved into a wired 24/7 connected world, made worse by the global pandemic and lockdown, time in nature is becoming increasingly important for our well-being. But people have seen that for a long time. This man, one of my heroes, Fridtjof Nansen, polar explorer, diplomat, politician, Nobel laureate, 1922. He knew that we all need time to step back and to think strategically. So for him, deliverance, the answers will not come from the stressed out, noisy cities. It will come from the lonely places where we have time to think. And if any of you have spent time in an environment like this, you will know the silence, the enormity, the power of it is quite extraordinary. Another man who recognized the value of reflection in nature is this man called Kurt Hahn. And many of you listening now will be aware that sadly the Duke of Edinburgh passed away several weeks ago, and he lent his name to many conservation charities. Over 900 charities he was involved in. But the one charity that he spent most of his life connected to, 66 years, he was patron of this organization called Outward Bound that was set up in 1941 on the west coast of Wales. And Hahn believes that silence in nature, that time to reflect and hold a mirror up to ourselves is absolutely critical for our growth and for learning and for understanding. So Outward Bound is the organization that I work for, an incredible organization, still going strong 80 years later, which is quite an achievement. And Attenborough, of course, is right. He's always right. No one will protect what they don't care about, and no one will care about what they've never experienced. And when young people come with Outward Bound, it's often their first immersion into a natural environment. Here in Oman, when we take young Omanis into the desert or the mountains, it's often the first time they have actually sat down in a place where a mobile phone doesn't work and had time to think and reflect. And the more connected they become, the more likely they are to care for the environment. So Outward Bound immerses young people from the jungles of Brazil. We're in every environment on Earth, to the mountains and the lochs of Scotland, to the northern coniferous forests of Finland, and here to the deserts of Oman. An incredible organization, 35 countries, 38 schools across 6 continents. We haven't got a center in Antarctica yet, but I'm looking to you, Paul, to perhaps set that one up for us. I'm talking to you now from Muscat, the capital city of Oman. You can see it there at 1 o'clock on the map, on the edge of the Gulf of Oman. I said earlier, it's about 42, 43 degrees today. But if you look to the south of Muscat, you'll see a place called Ramal Al Wahiba. It's now got a different name. It's a small sand desert on the edge of the Indian Ocean, and it's separated from the biggest sand desert on Earth. If you look at the map and you see the name Saudi Arabia, underneath it you will see it says Rub al Khali, the biggest desert, the biggest sand desert on Earth, called the Empty Quarter. And Several years ago, we were fortunate to be gifted some funding to construct a centre for outdoor learning in the middle of our beautiful sand sea, just south of Muscat, the Wahiba Sands, now known as the Sharqiya Sands. So, Paul, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to hit the play button and play us a little video now. See if that'll work.
Sharqiya Sands, Oman. Empty yet beautiful, remote yet inspirational. In this vast wilderness, Outward Bound Oman provides unique opportunities to explore the desert and learn in the stillness of its dunes. Situated less than 2 hours' drive from Muscat, Sharqiya Sands is bounded to the north by 6,000-foot mountains and to the east by the Indian Ocean, stretching out over 4,800 square miles of desert. In the winter months, when temperatures are quite bearable, Outward Bound Oman uses its long experience to lead groups in safety on courses in the desert, on journeys of discovery. With dunes up to 100 meters high, the sands offer unparalleled opportunities for challenging expeditions. Yet this is far from the arid wilderness found in other parts of Arabia. The nearby sea regularly results in a heavy dew and thick fog, providing life-giving moisture. Look carefully, and you will find an astonishing variety of species in this environment of unique importance.
A visit gives you an opportunity to really understand the rich biodiversity of these sand deserts. They are much richer in life than you ever know.
It's also an opportunity to learn about the Bedouin who live here and their distinctive culture, rich in wisdom, with much to teach visitors from the rushing modern world.
For me personally, my time in the sands gave me an opportunity to have a spiritual experience and understand how important nature and natural ecosystems like this are for our future.
Away from the internet and mobile phones, for those willing to listen and learn, the tranquility of the desert offers life-changing insights and opportunities.
I listened to one of the speakers talking about sustainable investment, green investments for the future, and financial investments. But I believe the greatest investment we can make is in young people, the next generation of planetary caretakers. So there's 200,000 young people go through these outward bound schools in the world every year. But there are people in this biodiversity festival that I listened to yesterday and today that have really given me great ideas for the future to evolve what we're currently doing. But again, you can look backwards as well for inspiration. This photograph was taken in the Umfolozi River in South Africa, and any of you who know your wilderness education will recognize that the man second in the line there, Dr. Ian Player, who sadly passed away, set up the Wilderness Foundation in South Africa. And Ian recognized the role that sitting around that fireplace can play in breaking down and addressing that issue of apartheid that was a great issue in the country that he loved when he was growing up. When you're sitting around that fire on a 5-day expedition in the bush of South Africa, and you realize that the only thing that's going to stop those hyenas and lions that are roaring and barking away in the darkness, the only thing that's going to keep them away from you at night is if that fire's kept going. And you've got to take it in turns to keep that fire burning by putting a log on it every now and again. And whether it's a black guy or a white guy who's got to put that log on the fire, it doesn't matter. You have to trust them. And slowly, that journey in the wilderness evolves, and that trust develops. The equation, I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a physicist, but the equation is very easy for some of the magic that we do here in Oman. We take 18 young people for 5 days, 4 nights. We throw in 3 camels. We add one vast silent desert. And you add to that absolutely no doors to hide behind, no mobile phones, and you get the result of one uniquely powerful experience. I would argue that if countries are struggling in terms of security and safety and conflict, then biodiversity slides down the list of priorities. So if we're going to promote biodiversity and keep it moving up the agenda, which is what it clearly is, then we have to invest in the future leaders who understand the importance of peace and peace building and the importance of good governance and good leadership, because peace will come from prosperity, and peace will also come and prosperity will come from good leadership. So the next little video clip tracks a group of 18 young people who have been nominated by their own countries to come and address issues of cultural misunderstanding and come up with solutions. So the next video clip, Paul, please.
I'm Kate, I'm from England and I'm not a football hooligan.
My name is Khaled and I'm from Saudi Arabia and I'm not rich.
My name is Zahla.
My name is Ashima.
We are from Oman.
And we don't ride camel to go to work.
My name is Cody. I'm from the United States. I'm not a Christian.
I'm Mikołaj. I'm from Poland and I'm not anti-immigration.
My name is Tisneem. I'm from Algeria and I'm not a terrorist.
I've never been in the Middle East. You're like, are they looking at me because I'm not wearing a headscarf, or are they gonna sell me for 10 camels?
At first, I totally thought that Americans are totally racist about everybody, especially the Arabic people. But Jody was just not racist at all.
The media has the power to make the truth they want.
Media is a tool, it's not to blame, we are to blame.
Before coming, I was extremely worried that people who are participating in this program would not understand Saudi Arabia fully, because media has filled their attention with so many fake news about Saudi Arabia.
We actually don't have many Arab people in Moldova, and most of the people in Moldova don't know anything about them. They just believe in stereotypes and mostly what they hear from TV.
Stereotype a lot of people have in England about Morocco. I think it's important to talk about how we feel the media is presenting different cultures. Otherwise, we just take it for granted what we see on the news and what we hear from other people. We think that's the truth, and that's not true at all.
One of the most important things, like listening to each other, because this is the first step to understand another's culture, another's motives, another's lives.
Programs like these create bonds and bridges between cultures. I tried my best to remove the stereotypes they have about my culture, about my country.
I started not judging people by their, labels, as for example a religion, color, race, nationality or whatever. I started to look at people as individuals.
99% of the population from these countries are just normal people like us, with the same dreams and the same feelings towards life, and I totally connect with them.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Juma from Oman. Oman is a peaceful and tolerant country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. I'm watching the clock, so I'm going to keep moving on. But I heard yesterday one of the speakers talk about the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum Great Reset program. And that's something we look at very closely here in Oman. And the future challenges that you see dotted around the slide in front of you: climate change, top right, biodiversity, food and water security. All of these future challenges require a different skill set if they're going to be solved. So it's one thing immersing people in wild places, but it's another thing giving them the skills and the tools to do something about it. And in particular, the bottom left-hand pair on this diagram, collaboration and compromise. The World Economic Forum said that actually what would be better would be a slightly more feminine approach to leadership, less confrontational, more collaboration and compromise. A lot of those issues, climate change, biodiversity, water security, run across borders. We have to collaborate, we have to compromise. So these are the skills that we try and embed in partnership with the World Economic Forum here in Oman. We run a course called Oman's Future Global Leaders. We really try and work with young people who can make a difference. We can't work with everybody, but we can try and hope and invest in the multiplier effect. Of the people who took part in this course this year, 95% felt that they had gained the skills to better communicate and to influence others. 100% felt that they were more able to work and cooperate with others, and 95% understood or better understood the importance of collaboration and compromise as key skills in resolving global issues like biodiversity. Right, last 2 minutes really. The great challenge on all of our courses that we present young people with is this: what do you want to be written on your headstone? What is your legacy going to be? What are you going to do to make a difference? You will know if you've made a difference when they build a statue of you. And this man, Edmund Burke, has 3 statues dotted around the world: Washington, DC, Bristol in the UK, and Dublin in Ireland. Why? Because he was a great thinker. He was years ahead of his time. So one of the things I do with the students on our courses in the desert is I present them with these jumbled words, because if you make sense of these jumbled words, if you try and rearrange them into a sentence, you will come up with what it was that Burke was trying to say. And what he was trying to say is this: all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good people do nothing. And I think when you think of what we hope the outcomes will be of this biodiversity festival, is that it inspires people who are listening to step forward and do something, because it's so easy to sit back and stay in your comfort zone and do nothing and leave it to other people. So congratulations to you, Paul, to Joe, Olga, everyone on the team for inspiring me, and I'm sure you have inspired many people. And if you don't think you can do anything yourself, well, spend a night in a room with one of these fellas, and then you'll realize that we are all capable of doing something, however small or large we are. Thanks very much, Paul.
Well, I tell you, Mark, that was fantastic. I'm just going to take your slideshow, if I can, and just pop it off so people can see us.
Okay.
There you go, buddy. Yeah, I tell you, that was just so great. And such wise words from you, Mark, because let's face it, we are living this LinkedIn world. I mean, here we are, we're celebrating something called the Global Biodiversity Festival on UN Biodiversity Day. We're all hoping that we feel that we're around that fire in the desert, trying to do our very best to sort of sense what it's like to really be together on one great, impossibly big global field project, I suppose. But at least we're capturing some of that energy. But when I woke up this morning and turned this laptop on again, I was like, oh, you know, as exciting as it is, we're all running on no sleep, and you know, we've got the buzz of getting somewhere, but it's nothing like being in the wild places. I mean, we just have to face that, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But you know, isn't it nice to have both options, Paul?
Yes. We're living a luxury, and when you bring up things like the Great Reset, you know, I was at Davos last year, and it does feel like a lifetime ago, and I celebrated when that came up. I was in the front row for Prince Charles's talk, and the whole of the week in Davos was worth it for his talk, you know. And I do have to let you know, I did actually survive Trump's talk as well. But there I was in the front row and hearing him announce the Great Reset and conservation marketplaces and these great stories I was getting from everywhere in Davos, that it's the green investments, blue investments, sustainable investments that are really getting somewhere these days, and the old-fashioned unsustainable investments are losing their way. So there's a big sense of hope and sustainability, and we're really getting somewhere. But how to make it happen, we need to listen to you, Mark. You know, you're dead right. We need the young ones really respect that the best investment we can do is in the young people. And coupled with your reminder to us all, I didn't think I needed reminding, to be fair, Mark, but I think I did. That, you know, the best ideas all come from the wild places. That was Nansen, wasn't it? All the big ideas come from the...
It was, yeah, the solution. Solutions come from the lonely places. Yeah.
That's it.
You know, even if it's a walk in the park on your way to work, it gives you time to think, doesn't it? And we all need that more than ever, I think, now.
It's very funny because we've put all kinds of words into this. You know, nature soak, a forest soak. Richard Louv for his nature deficit disorder. So we're all aware of it. But I think you've done a brilliant job here, Mark. Well, I know you have, reminding us all that it's not much good being aware of it. You've actually got to feel it and do it. We do need the mosquito in the tent, you know. We do need your amazing coffee with dates. And just so you know, everybody, before we joined Mark in Oman for the Wahiba Sands journey, as always, living busy lives here in Geneva, opened up Mark's briefing. And what made us laugh is that, firstly, it was a tremendous briefing. Right, you're coming with us in the desert, camels, here's what we're going to do, camping, all that. Big crossing, beautiful journey. Was that every sort of third line said something about coffee and dates. So we absolutely loved it. So we were laughing like hell, thinking, wow, we're going to live on coffee and dates. But it was that thing. It just made us laugh, and it brought us out of our administrative heavy life in Geneva to we're going to meet Mark and we're going in the Wahiba Sands. It was just brilliant. And that journey, it was a connecting cultures journey, I think.
It was. Yeah, it was, Paul. Yeah, and listen, we're connecting cultures kind of morphed into global shapers now. We're really focusing on this sort of more leaning more towards a feminine integrated style of leadership and giving young people the tools to step up and communicate and shape the thinking of others, because that's the early accelerator we've got, really. I think that's the fastest way to get to where we want to be, is to identify the sort of opinion formers of the future and really give them the tools and the experience to step forward and make a difference. Because you can't do everything, as enthusiastic as you are, Paul, but you know, we've got to spread the load.
It's lovely to hear you say it. And at National Geographic, we've noticed that the young ones that we bring on through the National Geographic Education Program, Ocean Champions Program, Gen Geo, all these other links, they all make amazing use of the resources. Yeah. You know, the resources are there, just like you with Outward Bound. And next thing you know, they're all over the place. They've picked up this, they've found these teachers, they're doing that. And the man who you saw just an hour ago, Prashant Mohish, he's a typical young genius doing amazing things, and he's a National Geographic resource super user, we call him.
Wow.
And I know we have the same with Outward Bound as well.
Yeah. Look, it's very easy to get all negative and hung up about young people and despair. But you know, the potential we see on our courses is enormous, incredible. And so I remain, like you, Paul, incredibly optimistic. I'm realistic about the challenges, but optimistic about the solutions.
Oh yeah, I think it's just brilliant. I mean, when I know you've developed quite the centre there in Oman, and brilliant. And for those of you watching, please do search for Mark Evans and Outward Bound Oman and just see what's been built out there. It's absolutely brilliant. And as I say, you are sticking to your principles. And of course, I've just pulled up Kurt Hahn here on Outward Bound on the website, and there's a bit of Outward Bound news, and they're saying, and it's just exactly what we're saying, Mark, and they're saying, at a time of unprecedented uncertainty, we all need courage, kindness and compassion more than ever. And that's their way of sharing the Outward Bound and Kurt Hahn's pillars, the philosophy that you're saying. So that, as we all know, come on, everybody, we're all here at something called the Global Biodiversity Festival. In pre-COVID times, we would all be together somehow. Maybe we would all be in some glorious venue. Maybe we'd be in the desert with Mark. And then there would be a stream of people catching it virtually. But it's all the other way around now. But while we're doing all this virtual stuff, as well as celebrating what we're doing, let's remember that just as soon as we can get out there ground truthing the planet ourselves, we absolutely have to do it. So, Mark, you've really brought that message to life for me, buddy, and I can't wait.
Good. There's just one word I want to leave you with, Paul, and it kind of connects Hahn, what you were just talking about, to Edmund Burke. And it's Hahn used the word in 1941, spectatoritis, And I don't even know whether that word still exists in the dictionary today, but actually look it up, because he was exactly on the same thread as Burke. The big danger is too many people watching other people do things. You know, we need the activists. Spectator writers.
I absolutely love it. Well, Mark, thanks for your messages. That was a brilliant 30 minutes. Wow, what a man. Good luck. I hope to see you in the Lake District, here in Geneva or Oman, soon as possible.
With the coffee and the dates. Thanks, Paul.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Made me laugh. Thanks again, Mark.